Your legal reasoning expert, and today we are going to study the tips that would help you maximize your score in legal reasoning, something that students have been requesting from me for a long time. So how are you all? Good evening everyone. How are you all? I'm a little bit late, right? That's okay, that happens. Being late is fashionable, isn't it? So if you arrive at some place late, you're very fashionable. That's what I have seen in TV shows where people are extremely fashionable. Anyway, enough of chit chat. Good evening. How are you? Hello. Good evening everyone on the app and on the YouTube platform. Yes, aa gayi. I'm here. So you want to pursue law, but you're confused. It's safe to enter in law. You have so many queries regarding this field. So please help me, assist me for my future. What should you do? So if you want to pursue law. Why are you confused? I'm so sorry, Satya. I'm so sorry. Apologies, buddy. I'll try not to repeat it, but you know, and even I know it, that it is going to happen again, right? So there shouldn't be any confusion. See, law is a very lucrative career. It is, right? But it entails an equal amount of hard work like all other fields. There are various options for you to enter into the legal field. The first one is to enter right after 12th. So after 12th, there is a national level competition, CLAT, that you take, for which we are all preparing for. So you take this exam. It is a national level exam. It consists of about 22 universities. You take the exam. Depending on the score, you would be allotted a certain university and you can start your BA LLB honors. There's another way you can do, or you can continue your graduation. If you are doing graduation, finish that graduation and pursue a 3-year LLB course from another university. That's how you do law. Right? You're unable to score well in mocks. Uzefa, you're losing interest. You're losing focus. That is why you are able to do well in sectional tests and not in mocks. You get distracted while taking full length tests because they are 2-hour tests. 2 घंटे के tests होते हैं ये, and you get distracted. You're losing your focus. You get bored. That is why you are making silly mistakes, which is lowering your score. That is what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. Try not to get distracted. Keep in mind that the full length exam or the full length test like this is going to be your actual exam also, and you cannot get distracted. You cannot lose focus in the actual exam. So keep that zeal alive that if I'm able to crack this, I will end up as the most successful lawyer in the whole universe. So think it like that, right? And you won't get distracted. Okay, or use techniques. Use pen while reading. Try to think about the college life. Try to think about a good college and the fact that how your parents will be proud if you're able to get through a very good university. Try to think all of that. It will help you from not getting distracted. Right? That's what I used to do when I was preparing. It happens to everyone, not a big thing. So let's move on. Now the structure of the exam, since I know most of the students are still unfamiliar and there are many students who are new. Sometimes 6 to 7 questions I get wrong in legal section. Your name is Mahi Sharma. Mahi, your concepts are not clear, sweetheart. Your concepts are not clear. You lack knowledge in legal section or in law particularly, and law being an anathema for most of the students because it is something that you have never studied before. So when you face that concept, right away as something absolutely new, you tend to get confused. You're not able to decipher what is written. You're not able to understand the legal language. So why don't you solidify your legal concepts before taking tests? That should help you. Okay, right. So this is the structure of exam. Everybody knows it. So those of you who don't know it, there are 150 questions. The total marks are 150. 1 mark for each correct answer. Right, for each correct answer, +1 for every wrong, 0.25 deducted. When an exam like this happens, when an exam includes the unjust, the evil, the cruel, negative marking, this is what I hate absolutely. Every competition that I faced, negative marking is something that I've always detested. You'll also come to detest it. So if there is a cruel exam which involves negative marking, the best approach is not to attempt the questions that you are confused in. Trust me. Right? For example, let's say that there are 4 questions. Okay, you are not familiar with the questions, you attempt them. Despite the fact that you don't know them, you attempt them. You lose 1 mark if you attempt them wrong. While the person who left them will only lose 4 marks, but you who attempted all of them will lose 5 marks. Right? So it's the best approach is to leave the question if you don't know it. And this approach usually works in straight questions, or the questions that are straight, right? That require knowledge, that are based on knowledge. So if you know the answer, attempt it. Right? It happens in GK. Either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. You cannot definitely derive the answer from the passage. Passage is not going to tell you the answer. Rest, in legal you can derive the answer, but that might take you some time. But if it is taking you too long to derive the answer, just leave it. Just leave it. Attempt it later, but don't attempt it at that moment, because that is not a good idea. CLAT 23 aspirant and my scores are around 65 only. So that's okay. 23 is a very long, it's still far-fetched, and I'm sure you're not complete with your preparation. That is something that happens, okay? Initially it happens. Until and unless you're complete with your preparation, you should not take mocks, because you would not get good marks. Your concepts are unclear, you're not familiar with a lot of things, your reading speed is not as great. So it is very logical, it is very obvious that you will not score as great. So it's okay. So it's okay to score less, and the best way is not to take mocks until September. Wait till September. Your preparation would have advanced by then take full length tests. Okay. Yes, moving on. So this is the structure: English language 30, general knowledge 35, reasoning 30, legal aptitude 40. Oh my god, the lengthiest session. So if you are able to score well in legal aptitude, you are actually through, right? That is what it is. Now there is one thing that students often do. Elementary mathematics. Some students completely leave out this section. Guys, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, since it is a strategic session in which I'm going to advise you some things, there are students who are scared of maths, right? Arithmetic, algebra, geometry, whatever it is, they're just scared of it, right? Maths is difficult for them. They don't have mathematics in their 11th, 12th. Even if you're scared, just think that the level of mathematics that you have to face in CLAT is 9th, 10th only. A place where you had maths as a compulsory subject. There is not going to be an advanced integration, differentiation questions. No. This is something that you can easily practice. Even if you do 5 to 10 questions every day, or even twice, thrice a week, you can score very, very well in this section. You can even score 15 out of 15 in this section. This is the only section where you can score full marks, 100 on 100. But leaving out a complete section altogether is a destruction in a competitive exam, because you've already lost 15 marks. Now you are competing out of 135, and even in 135 you would be attempting a lot of wrong questions, which would lower your score to a level that you might not even get a college. So practice your mathematics properly. Do it thrice a week. If you do not like it, even do it twice a week if you completely hate it, but do practice it. A constant practice of mathematics every day will improve your section. Do not leave it. केसलेट से ज़्यादा डर लगता है, बाकी हो जाता है. केसलेट क्या है? इज इट अ मैथमेटिकल कंसेप्ट? मुझे भी मैथ से बहुत डर लगता था, तो मैं भी डरती थी, लेकिन मैंने मेहनत की थी. Which section to attempt first? according to me, this is the section that you should attempt first, because this is the only section where there is no solving, no derivation, no analyzing, nothing. This is a yes or no section. Either you know an answer or you don't know an answer, right? So this is it is not the easiest section, but it is going to be a section which will take the least of your time, because you're not thinking anything. Okay? So attempt GK first. Attempt the questions that you know. Either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. If you don't know the answer, just leave that answer. You won't be able to get it or derive it. If you have a confusion that I know this answer, I'm not confused, I'm confused between, I'm sort of confused between the options or something, just leave it for another time. Do the other questions, but attempt GK first. After GK, you go with the section which is easier for you. Legal should be attempted third. Do not go to legal first. It is the lengthiest of all sections. It is the trickiest of all sections. It is never going to be easy. The lengthiest passages, the most time-taking section. If you take or if you spend the first half of your paper in this, you've already lost the race, because you'd end up leaving a lot of chunk of paper. CLAT में तो नहीं आते हैं. CLAT देखो सेक्शंस या आर्टिकल से डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस नहीं आते. नो एग्जाम इज गोइंग टू टेस्ट यू ऑन द नॉलेज ऑफ योर सेक्शंस, or how well do you, or how well have you memorized the sections. Where is murder given? Where is culpable homicide section? No, you're not going to be tested upon that. So don't worry. No need to remember or mug up any section or article. Not required at all in any law entrance. And if coincidentally there's even a question that has asked you upon the section, that has tested you whether you know about the article or the section, and you don't know it, just leave it. If you are unfamiliar with it, trust me, most of the students would be. So it is in the category of the most difficult question that you can safely leave. You're not expected to know all 150 questions. Okay, if you know it, very good. If you don't know it, it's okay, just leave it. If your legal is strong, can you attempt it after GK? See, the thing is, even if you are great at legal reasoning, if you are completely 100% sure that, oh my God, I have studied from Nivedita ma'am and she has just taught me everything. I know I give that kind of confidence, and I'm really proud of you if you believe that. I'm really, really proud of you. But the thing is, legal reasoning is actually very, very lengthy. Everybody knows it. You might be very good at law. You might be able to understand these concepts very well. But your reading speed might not be as good or as great. Because some students actually miss out the fact that reading is equally important, and it is actually the most important. They don't practice their reading. Right? When you face these lengthy mocks, right? When you face these lengthy passages, you get panicked immediately. And in the initial 30-40 minutes of the exam, you remain paranoid, you remain panicked. And attempting legal during those panicked intervals is never a good idea. Even if you know the answer, you would attempt it wrong because you are scared. So when after 35-40 minutes, you tend to relax because the first half of the paper is already over. You have attempted a lot of questions. It gives you a certain encouragement. It gives you a certain level of confidence. And when you have that, when the panic or the stress is released, that is when you attempt legal. That is when you are going to score the maximum. And that is the tip of the day. Okay, that is the tip of the day, guys. If you attempt legal as your first section, no, oh my God, you have done a blunder. Do not do it. Do not do it in the first half of the paper. I'm telling you, the passages are going to be very lengthy. There might be a passage which you have not studied, and that is when you will lose your confidence immediately, oh, this is not something that I studied, what would happen now? And even when you know an answer, you'll attempt it wrong, and that is not a good idea. You'll get confused between the options because the options given in the passage will confuse you. There will be an option which is according to the passage, and there will be option which is also correct according to your knowledge. You would automatically resort to the answer which is correct according to your knowledge. You will completely forget the fact that there is a passage right above the questions and you are supposed to answer from the passage, and you have attempted a wrong answer. 0.25 marks deducted. So you do, no, first you do GK, then you do mathematics or English or logical, whatever it is that you find easy, then you do legal. Legal third. Okay, legal is the third section that you are going to attempt, not before. Keep it as a third section to be attempted, not first or second. By the time you come to legal, your stress is released, the pressure cooker is open, you are going to perform great. Trust me. Okay, that is the first tip of this session, by the way. Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry. Now, legal reasoning 40, all lengthy. Passage based questions, one passage with 5 questions. CLAT 21, these were the topics. Section 4, 10, 28, res judicata, these were the topics. There were more topics. Other topics were compassionate appointment, voluntary non-fit injuria, Hindu, consent. Now, what do we gather from this? So students who have started their preparation right now, you keep it at 4th. Ansh, even better. Buddy, even better. Keep it at last. Don't do it last. If you keep it at last, you'll end up leaving a lot of it. So keep it at 3rd. I'm keeping it on 3rd level for a reason. If you keep it to the last, you will be more panicked. You cannot attempt legal in a panic-stricken mode. That is what I'm saying. So leaving it in the middle is the best idea. Okay, don't attempt it at last, don't attempt it during the first half, attempt it after the first half is over. Don't keep it for last also. That is also not good, because during the last minutes you cannot attempt legal. It involves a lot of time. Okay, now these are the topics. So from these topics, or if you analyze the above past year question papers or whatever is given in your books, you will see that civil law is the most important. Civil law includes what? Contract, tort, family, constitution. Anything which is not criminal is civil. Contract and tort. If the students who have just started the preparation are going to sit for CLAT 22, focus on these, because you don't have time for anything else. Just focus on these when it comes to your legal reasoning. A little bit of constitution if you are still left with time. Just stick to the most important concepts in this: void voidable agreements, consent, essentials of contracts. That's it. Torts, general defenses, general torts. That's it. Right? If you are left with time, study constitution, study fundamental rights, nothing else. If you are left with more time in crime, you can do crime also. Just study the general defense, the private defense, and some offenses relating to body. That is it. Got it? Do you think in every passage all 5 questions are not doable? At least there is one question which traps us and we waste your time a lot. Pragya, it is absolutely right. You have made a very, very accurate observation. This is actually a very, very accurate observation. It happens all the time. There is always a question which is the most tricky in every passage. It confuses you. So if you can derive that answer from the passage easily, well and good. If you can't, leave it. If it is difficult for you, it is going to be difficult for everyone else. Sometimes we only encounter miscellaneous passages in our mock for legal. Can this be a scenario in the actual exam? Akanksha, definitely not. Most definitely not. It's not going to be the scenario. Okay. What happens in the actual exam is pretty different. The exam is offline or online? It's offline, Ragini. It's offline. Up till now it is offline. For 22 is offline. Let's see what happens for 29. Okay. Consortium always amazes you. They always surprise you. So they might do anything. Now, sorry, made a mistake. So these were the topics. Legal aptitude section consists of legal reasoning passage. It can also be from a current legal event. So apart from the static law that you are required to study, you also need to refer to newspapers. Now this tip is only for aspirants of 2023. Now what are the events that are related to legal, current events related to legal? So whatever event has law in it is a legal event. Very simple. So if it concerns anybody's rights or a crime or a Supreme Court judgment or a High Court judgment which has created a national outrage like hijab controversy or anti-conversion law or any stuff like that, is of legal nature. So just study it, that's it. Okay, and when you study it properly, like cover all the four corners, because if you don't do it, you are missing out on a lot of things. Is legal of BYJU'S easier than the paper? Musharraf, no. Whatever mocks you face are at least two times difficult than the actual paper. The actual paper is created, keep in mind, an average 12th class student who has no knowledge of law. The consortium keeps that in mind, while the coaching institutes are already teaching you law. So they keep your knowledge also, or they take your knowledge, the prior background of law, into consideration, and based on that the mocks are created. That is why they are more difficult. Okay. You're not able to perform good in legal edge mocks. Find out where you're lacking. Why are you lacking? Are the concepts not clear enough? Are you taking too much time reading? Are you not understanding the concept? What is happening? Improve that particular thing. Work on it. Your score will improve. Mock in my marks few, but I regularly revise. I think you can do better. Of course, Dinesh, the score in mocks is never determinative of your actual score in the actual exam. So there was this student that I interviewed last year, and his name was, I forgot. I think it was Harat Gandhi. Right, so he is a student of NLS Bangalore, and while I was interviewing him, he pointed out a very good thing. He said that I continued scoring poorly in my mocks. I sometimes scored 60, even 40 for that matter, but I never stopped taking mocks. I continued taking mocks till the day of my exam, and on the day of my exam I was fully prepared. So never let these mocks discourage you, because the score is not determinative. You are practicing, you're practicing continuously, and that practice will bear fruit in the actual exam, even if it is giving you less marks in that current mock. So mocks are not determinative of your result. By the way, do not get discouraged by it. Sometimes language is so difficult, it becomes so difficult to understand, which I have never encountered. Judgment. Karthik, what is the solution to that? I mean, it is legal language. It is meant to be tricky so as to provide the scope of interpretation. Right? So law is supposed to be dynamic, and in order for it to be dynamic, it is devised or created in a manner that it becomes, it gives a scope of interpretation. So that is what makes it difficult. Keep practicing, even if the language is difficult. Read it twice, thrice. Obviously, you are not in any deficiency of time. So if you keep reading it, you will get the gist eventually. There is no crunch of time in a mock. So even if the passage is difficult, make sure that you attempt it. Make sure that you understand it and attempt the questions correctly. It will give you confidence if you are able to crack it. Maybe next time, if the passage is tricky or difficult, you won't take as much time. Don't leave the passage just because it is difficult to understand. Is there a chance that in legal all questions and options would be lengthy? There's a 100% chance of that. Expect that your passages are going to be lengthy no matter what in legal. They are going to be lengthy. Should we focus more on CLAT and ALET both equally or focus on CLAT because it is in December? Look, when you prepare for CLAT, nobody, you are actually preparing for all the other entrance tests, because CLAT in itself is extremely huge. It contains all the sections that the other exams have. So if you prepare for CLAT, you are automatically preparing for other exams, syllabus wise. When you practice all the entrance level questions. So practicing from a passage is a different thing. Practicing principal fact based questions are different thing. So practice simultaneously. Take a CLAT mock one day, take ALET or other law entrance test another day. Keep taking different mocks. The syllabus is the same, the concepts are the same, only the manner or the pattern of questions is different. So practice these different questions and you're through, right? You can focus on them equally. Uzefa, that is actually a very good approach. Taking mocks every day is a good idea. What are best revision? One day in subject, 2 subjects. If you are a dropout, if you have time, 2 subjects a day. Don't set too ambitious goals. If you set too ambitious goals, you won't be able to fulfill them. Set goals that you can actually accomplish. So 2 subjects a day is a safe goal. Okay. Listen to Akanksha. She has said such a beautiful thing. Very good. Very good. I really like what you said, sweetheart. Very good. Okay, let's move on. Now, law of torts. Let's discuss the important topics since you are already in a crunch of time. Nature and definition, not required, don't study it. Liability based on fault, strict liability, very, very important. Absolute liability, vicarious liability, including state, very important. General defenses, very important. Don't have to read it. Joint tortfeasors are the people who are committing tort jointly. That's it. Remedies is something that you don't have to study if you are studying right now for the exam of 22. Okay, that's why I'm cutting out. If you are studying for CLAT 23, yeah, you have to read everything. I get confused. Yes. Then we have trespass, negligence, defamation, nuisance, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution. Include battery in it. Include assault in it. Right. Add these 2 also, and these are the general torts that you have to study. That is what your syllabus of torts is going to be. Okay. Moving on. Now you have law of contracts. These are the topics. Nature and formation of contract, very important even if you are studying for the first time for the exam of 22. How is the contract formed? The essentials. They are extremely important. You cannot study contract without them. Void and voidable includes everything. So what is void, what is voidable in legal, unenforceable agreements? You can cut this out if you are studying for CLAT 22. You can also cut this out. You can leave all this. But if you are studying for CLAT 23, you have to include everything. Right? So I'm giving you your syllabus. How great is that? Right? So if you are studying for CLAT 22 and you don't have a lot of time already, obviously, because it is right around the corner, just stick to the nature and formation of contract, which is the essentials. What makes an agreement a contract? The void contract, the void agreement, voidable contract, everything, just this. That's it, and you are done with contracts. Okay. Then we have constitutional law. These are the topics that you have to study in constitutional law. Preamble, fundamental rights, duties, central government, state government, local government, constitutional bodies, non-constitutional bodies, working of the constitution, constitutional framework, right? Constitution is a bit tricky, so I would suggest you to stick to fundamental rights only and the basic structure, the road leading to the creation of basic structure, and that is it. That is it. Okay. Topics in crime is murder, culpable homicide, kidnapping, theft, criminal conspiracy, preparation of crime. And these are the miscellaneous topics. The current legal events. IPR is intellectual property rights. Family law, a little bit of CPC, a little bit of international law, and generic legal articles, which you can find anywhere, because most of the passages are actually taken from generic legal events. Okay. Now you're awakened. Very good. आज की class, ma'am, एकदम ऑसम वाली है। हाँ, मैं सच में सब बता देती हूँ। आई नो यार, सच मतलब कितनी अच्छी बात है ना, कितनी अच्छी बात है ये। इसी बात पे जाओ तुरंत और लाइक कर आओ, ठीक है। Now, preparation strategy for legal aptitude. The facts and principles will not be given separately in a question. ये बात हो रही है CLAT की. Now, we are talking about a CLAT exam in which you have a passage. The passage is going to be a lengthy passage. Is it not? It is not going to be restricted within 400 to 450 words. It can actually extend that. Okay. So, in that passage, you will face multiple principles, not just one principle. Whenever you are reading a passage in the CLAT, be prepared with a pencil. Okay, you have to have a pencil when you're taking the actual exam. What is happening, guys? There's so many people watching the session. Why aren't you liking it? Please like the session. Yes. So whenever you're reading a passage in your CLAT exam, take a pencil, read with the help of a pencil. As soon as you see something important, like the tone of the passage, as soon as you see the author's opinion, whether it is a criticism or favoritism, underline it immediately. If you see a definition, underline it. If you see essentials or qualification, for example, the passage is telling you what would make an agreement a contract, it is allowed to underline. Yes, the pattern of the exam is such that you can underline the passage. Nobody is going to say anything to you, but use a pencil, don't use a pen. Even if the invigilator interrupts you, you can always erase it, but you can underline it. There's nothing in the consortium guidelines that tell you or prohibit you from underlining. Okay, that is how you actually decipher a passage. That is very logical, but use a pencil. Okay, and underline it very faintly. Don't like scribble anything on it. Okay, so as soon, for example, in a passage you see there are conditions given when an agreement becomes a contract, and those conditions are imperative. Without either of the conditions, an agreement is not a contract, it becomes void. You immediately underline it, because that is where the question is going to come from. So whatever important you find in the passage is supposed to be underlined, because when you read a question, you would automatically resort to the passage, and when you have underlined the most important parts, you are only resorting to the most important parts. You are not reading the entire passage, which is going to save a lot of time, and you would get that answer absolutely correct. That is one way. Another way or the best way is to read the question first. The best thing is to read the question first. Before reading a passage, I always advise my students to read the questions. Read all the 5 questions, read all the 5 options. Now you know what is going to be asked. You are completely aware of what is going to be asked. Now read the passage. You already know what lines or what parts of the passages are coming in the questions. Immediately underline them. Now you are through. You have saved at least 2 to 3 minutes. That is going to be your strategy. Sometimes some invigilators are extremely disruptive. Read the guidelines. The guidelines are given in the paper. I don't think the guidelines tell you cannot underline. There's hardly anything that asks you not to write on the paper, and it happens only when you're required to submit the question paper. If you're required to submit the question paper, there might be an instruction, do not write anything on the question paper, right? But if there is no such direction, you can very well underline. There's no problem, or just underline it faintly. No, don't use it, a sketch pen. Okay, it's not time consuming, it's actually time saving. कभी कभी बाउंस हो जाता है पढ़ने के बाद पैसेज पूरा, इसीलिए तो मैं कहती हूँ क्वेश्चंस पहले पढ़ लो. जैसे ही तुम क्वेश्चंस पहले पढ़ लोगे, पैसेज बाउंस नहीं होगा, क्योंकि तुम्हें पता है कि तुम्हें क्या पढ़ना है. ठीक है, तुमने क्वेश्चंस, इट इज समटाइम्स इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड द क्वेश्चंस रादर देन द पैसेज. सो रीड द क्वेश्चंस फर्स्ट. Read the questions first. You are automatically aware. You are aware of what is going to be there in the passage. Obviously, it is relating to the questions. Now you automatically, or without unconsciously focusing on the parts which are important in context of the questions, and you are saving a lot of time. Okay? Yes. paying attention to all the small details, identify the principles and their roles respectively and clearly. How do you do that? By reading the questions beforehand. Beware of the small tweaks given in the passage. If there is a deviation or an exception, for example, there is a passage of murder given. Okay, there is a passage of murder given and they have given you the elements which would make culpable homicide in a murder, right? कौन सा act culpable homicide को murder बना देगा, वो passage में दे रखा है. Okay, but what would negate murder? What are the exceptions to murder? They are also given. Those are the tweaks. When the author deviates from what he is explaining or when the author suddenly changes his tone, you need to be extremely careful. Underline that deviation, that tweak immediately. Your question is solved. You will get it correct, right? Now, sorry. Oh, this is very tricky. So that's it for all. These are some marvelous tips that are given to you because I am really concerned about you all, and I sincerely believe that many of you are going to fetch ranks and so as to make me proud. So do it. Keep these tips and strategies in mind. You have to keep them in mind because you're almost done with your time and you have a very little time. So prepare yourself with these strategies. If you're preparing or you're preparing from the scratch, just focus on the most important topics that I just told you. Do not read anything else. Even if you read the most important parts, you might be able to qualify CLAT. Even at this time, I can tell you that it is not impossible to qualify CLAT. Okay, so these are the 26 power packed sessions, guys. 27th mein Ankur sir is going to revise algebra. On 28th, Nivedita Raji ma'am is coming with the major doctrines in the constitution, some things which students often miss out. Now these 26 power packed sessions are generally strategy sessions and those topics which you might miss or you might have missed because they don't seem important, but they are very important and only a faculty can tell you that. Right, so that is it for today. Remember the schedule of the session. All these last lap sessions are conducted every day at 8 p.m. and I want all my students to attend these sessions. Do not forget us to join for this and this June 19th CLAT 22 live analysis and ALET live analysis on June 26th. And you can subscribe our channel. Please subscribe it. You have to subscribe it if you haven't already. Like the session, share the session. You can follow us at Instagram BYJU'S Exam Prep Law. Like us on Facebook. Join our Telegram channel and you can download our app from the Google app. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. That is it for today. I shall take your leave now and we shall meet with each other very soon. Bye-bye.